Yep, the star of this movie's a CGI monkey, but there's a very good reason why.
I know what you're thinking. What's with the monkey?
There's been a recent glut of musician biopics, but Better Man stands out because, well, it stars a fucking monkey. The monkey replaces the real star of the picture, Robbie Williams, because, as he says, he's always viewed himself as something other than human.
But I've always seen myself a little less evolved.
But that's only one of 4 reasons that the film made this bizarre decision.
No one will play us on the radio.
We need
It's so easy to show the simple progression of an artist from point A being broke to point B being rich and famous, while peppering in a little bit of songs here and there, and then just getting out.
This method allows the filmmakers to shove in as many songs the audience will know as possible, while elevating the artist at its heart above what they may or may not have done. Many of the artists in these films are legendary, making it all too easy to willfully ignore their less than fine moments. Better Man, on the other hand, paints Robbie Williams as anything but legendary, despite the ending hinting that he could end up there. The film as a whole is a character study about Robbie, his lifestyle, and how he went from a 15-year-old star to a cocaine addict and full-on alcoholic by 21.
What's so interesting is that the film is simultaneously glamorous and remarkably sleazy. Humanizing an icon like Robbie Williams is very difficult, and the film knows this. Taking a man who has the world at his fingertips, millions of dollars, hundreds of rabid, screaming fans, is not exactly relatable to somebody that's just trying to pay rent, and the film's acutely aware of that.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams. You may not know me, but that's not your fault. You soon will.
However, Better Man has this larger-than-life, almost magical quality to it, glorifying the rock star lifestyle with these bright colors and dynamic pacing, keeping the energy at 12 for the entire runtime. Interestingly, it juxtaposes this vibrance with dark, gritty sequences of flagrant drug use. This butting up of ideals is what spawns a CGI monkey playing our lead. The film asks the incredibly obvious question, how could someone with everything be so horrifically lost? Not an uncommon thing to see in the entertainment business, honestly. Copious money, endless enablers, and a schedule that rarely allows for breaks creates monsters, or animals, in this case. Yes, he's a monkey, cementing his feeling of being less evolved, as he says, but he leaves really nothing to the imagination here. Where another film might pull out scenes of him being abusive to his girlfriend or nearly running over fans, this film shows it in all its ugly detail. If one thing is clear, Robbie wants you to know he was not a good person for a long time.
You've got to risk it all, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
He even uses fame as an excuse to hide behind from his bad behavior. However, it's also clear that fame is just a symptom of the disease that's clouding his every waking moment.
Songs are only valuable if they cost you something.
If you're gonna laugh, do it on the inside, yeah?
He's plagued by these visions of himself calling himself inadequate or a dumb guy. And these visions show up while he's trying to perform on stage, which is a nice visual way of showing his intrusive thoughts, his insecurities, and his imposter syndrome. These are things that I think everybody deals with to some degree, but what's great about Better Man is that it doesn't just show how these visions or thoughts affect him, but more importantly, it shows where they came from.
I don't give a what they think.
You give a what everyone thinks.
In one of the most compelling scenes in the film, Robert performs My Way by Frank Sinatra with his dad. An important moment, not just because of the parallel later in the film, but more importantly, it paints Robert's relationship with his father, a figure in his life that looms over him despite leaving him and his mother alone at like 9 years old. This scene very earnestly shows the film's themes and informs Robbie's entire life. Compounded by his leaving, Robbie wants nothing more than to please his father, just as any kid does. From here, Robbie's entire life becomes one big race. The only difference is that most races have a finish line. For Robbie and so many others chasing dreams, the finish line continually moves, all thanks to his father.
My dad was well enamored by the stars of the day.
You can't learn it. You're either born with it, or you're a nobody.
As his father so often says, if you're not somebody, then you're nobody. His best friend even has a moment where he says, I just want to do this simple thing because it makes me happy. And all Robert can do is chide him and say, you know, you're stupid and a loser. Because he was taught that happiness isn't something that you get, it's something that you give to other people.
I want to be a nobody.
Contemplate my fate. You're enough.
As we see, Robert loved singing Sinatra with his father. That connection was what brought him true happiness. However, his father didn't see it the same way. Instead, he idolized Sinatra, using times like this to relish the mere thought of being famous instead of being there for his kid, believing if he was like Frank, things would be good, when all his son wanted was a father that was present. Because he was a child, Robert viewed the leaving of his father as his own fault. He hadn't become somebody, thus he hadn't become worthy of his own father's love, pushing him with a relentless energy toward becoming someone, whatever the cost. Of course, the cost was his ability to connect with literally anyone and being worn down by the constant imposter syndrome. Once he finally does make something of himself, his father magically returns to his life, furthering the warped idea that Robbie needed to be God in order to be loved. Something that drags him into alcoholism in his teens and hard drug use before his 21st birthday. It's this constant pressure to be otherworldly on top of the pressures you naturally would have from making it that utterly destroys the mental state of our monkey man lead.
With your voice and that monkey, I am gonna see you and relate to you in a way that is going to be more engaging than yet another musical biopic.
With all of these factors, it's no wonder that he feels like an animal to be looked and pointed at. It's no wonder he feels less evolved. It's no wonder he feels subhuman. If people aren't treating him like a transaction to be had, then he's looking down on them for not being as special as him.
Remember, I believe in you.
The arc of the film, and for Robbie as a character, is realizing where his addictions came from and allowing himself the space to see people for who they really are. For his entire life, all he wanted was to please other people, never stopping to ask what he really wanted or if they wanted what he thought they wanted.
I got the gift, gonna stick it in the goal. It's time to move your body.
The more difficult lesson to learn is what his father tells him before his record-breaking performance at Nebworth. Shortly after his nan dies, he has a full-on meltdown, destroying his house, dousing his sadness with cocaine, and finishing his spiral by finally telling his dad off. A moment normally meant to feel like a big victory for the lead. Finally, they said what needs to be said, right? Not exactly. As his father points out, Robbie would have gotten nowhere without him. Other than literally bringing him into the world, it was because of his direct or indirect influence that made Robbie the way he is. Famous, beloved, and rich beyond his wildest dreams. Naturally, it came at a massive cost, but his father isn't wrong. In fact, his father might be the only person in his life who actually understands him at this point. The drive to be famous, the willingness to leave everything behind, that's exactly what Robbie's dad did.
You could easily say that this is just a cycle of trauma, and you'd probably be right, but I think that is also oversimplifying this relationship. Yes, he left. Yes, he came back only after his son was famous. Yes, he kept pushing him despite some clear warning signs, but I think every cloud has a silver lining.
I'm gonna be famous! Shut up, you tits!
Fuck off, Glenn!
His father did come back, his father did make an effort, and his father may have been one of 3 people in his entire life that believed in him so much that he did push him to be better. For Robbie and his character arc in this film, maturing was realizing that fact. Growing up is looking at the bad and the good simultaneously. Your dad ditching you at a young age might be a valid excuse for being resentful and bitter, sure, but to what extent? When does that excuse wear out? And when does it become less of an excuse and more of a crutch?
Our entire identity absolutely cannot be the worst thing that's happened to us. It turns good people into animals that are just desperate for attention or desperate to please other people. As good as it might feel to blame other people for our problems, ultimately those problems are frequently of our own doing. It's something I fall victim to, it's something I'm sure you fall victim to, and it's definitely something Robbie fell victim to. His father might be the root cause of Robbie initially lashing out, but eventually Robbie's problems are his own problems. He's the one making those decisions, no one else. And if we don't realize that in our lives, that we are the problem in so many aspects of our lives, then we're no better than apes.